Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Tok Mun and all my fellow classmates. My name is Dayanku Siti Zulaiha, matric number 823574, and I'm doing this video for the purpose of managing occupational safety and health subject. Today I would like to talk about Chernobyl. Okay, for this incident, Chernobyl is a city in the Ukraine. It's located about 56 miles, which is 90 kilometers from the capital, which is Kiev. And prior to the disaster and a subsequent evacuation, it was a home to around 14,000 people. And at that time, it was still a part of Soviet Union. And the city was the location of the first ever nuclear power station to be built in Ukraine. But in 26 April 1986, the disaster struck when reactor number 4 has exploded. And the town is still home to around 690 people, although it's now somewhat of a ghost town, with animals occupying many abandoned buildings. Most of the residents live about 90 miles, which is 30 kilometers from the disaster site in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. And surprisingly, the international tourists flock to the area. But what exactly happened in Chernobyl? On 26 April 1986, the world's worst nuclear accident had happened in the plant, which is Chernobyl, in Pripyat, Ukraine. An explosion and fire in the number 4 reactor sends radioactivity into the atmosphere. The Chernobyl accident happened during the test to see how the plant would operate if it lost power. And plant operator made a severe mistake, creating a poisonous and unstable environment in the reactor core. Nevertheless, they proceed with the experiment, shutting down the safety system that would be lost during a power outage, including the turbine system that provide cooling water. With the flow reduced and the cooling water in the reactor, it begins to boil and turn to steam. And the operator tried to reinsert the rod to slow and control the reactor, the nuclear reaction, but a design flaw in the control rod caused them to jam, and the steam likely caused an explosion in the reactor, which in turn caused a second explosion seconds later. And that break from the explosion set out a number of fires around Chernobyl plant, and it released radioactive smoke into the atmosphere, and that spread over the Western Soviet Union and Europe. The radioactive release has been estimated at 400 times the size of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima. The disaster could have been worse if not for the action of Pripyat firefighter who were able to put out the fires before they caused explosion in the other 3 reactors. So, who or what is to be blamed for the disaster? Some claim that the workers at the plant are fault, while others believe the incident is the result of the flaw design. At any rate, factors from the combination of both could have been responsible leading up to the event, and the real blame, however, may attribute to a poor management. The accident is resulted from incompetence and was made even worse by misinformation and secrecy. The safety test was originally supposed to be conducted during the daytime when more senior engineers were on duty. This, however, would have meant shutting down reactor generators and causing an interruption in electricity supply. Thus, the safety test was postponed, scheduled to occur during the night shift, while electricity demands on the plant would be at their lowest. It sounds reasonable, right? Well, the engineers working at the night shift consisted of junior team on the scenes. Though qualified, these workers were very young, and for such a complex environment, just to give up you an example of their age, the turbine operator is only 29 years old. So it is said that the worker may have also been sleep deprived, since working the night shift can often be hard on your mind and your body. And as cited in psychology today, it is not uncommon for a night shift worker to develop psychiatric condition, and it's due to accumulated sleep deprivations. And as of us know, fatigue can also lead to the mistake. So it is possible that human error could have been at play with the combination of the young worker performing the test into the late hours of the graveyard shift. So this is not to say, however, that the blame should be placed squarely on their shoulder. They just doing their job and doing it to the best of their ability while following orders. The way that the reactor core has designed also made it prone to heating very quickly and too quickly, and it's got hot, and it's got hot at an alarming pace, too fast to handle. And despite there being many complications during the test preparation, the workers were ordered to go through with the test anyway. At 96 seconds before the blast, the 29-year-old turbine operator was ordered to proceed with shutting down the turbine to conduct the safety test. Energy level then soared dangerously high, and that's when the disaster ensued. Now let's go back and imagine that management is urging the senior staff to proceed with the safety test despite complication. The engineers know full well that doing this would be dangerous because there have been problems with the reactor. So maybe compared to the junior staff, the senior are more adamantly protest going through with it. So they put their foot down, and this is where the scenario have deviated in one of two different ways. Management could have either responded by accepting the opinion of seasonal professional engineers while devising the different course of action, or they could be angered and continue to insist that the safety test proceed. In the former scenario, disaster may have been averted for the time being, but simply delayed this time to take place eventually, unless the issue with the reactor were addressed. In the latter scenario, an explosion would just ensue, just as it did when the junior engineer in our timeline. In essence, there are many ways the action of the team could have deviated, but it is also possible that the disaster would have still happened at some point. In order to prevent another Chernobyl-like catastrophe, more workers need to be trained in nuclear science, and the problem is that it takes a lot of time to train people. It can take 2 to 7 years to graduate studies to become fully trained radiation professional, and power plant also need a team of skilled and competent nuclear engineer, health physics, reactor inspector, risk managers, and communication specialists. And forming a team like this is not easy though, and it is highly expensive. And there has also been a downward trend in the number of nuclear professionals or people entering into this field. Chernobyl contributed quite significantly to the development of safety and health at work, not only respect to directly relevant issues such as radiation protection. A whole safety culture concept arose after the Chernobyl accident, with a strong support from international level organization. And for example, in 2003, they developed a global strategy for occupational safety and health at work, which was adopted by the International Labour Conference. This strategy emphasized a safety culture based on prevention and workers' participation. Lessons learned from Chernobyl not only had an impact on nuclear industry but also on other sectors, and launched a virtuous circles of improvement in all of them. Chernobyl had a strong impact from a legal point of view. Before this, many countries did not have laws and regulation to protect the workforce and the population, and even more important, to prevent this kind of accident. After Chernobyl, they adopted regulations on nuclear safety, accident assistance, and etc. At the same time, the International Labour Organization and the other international agencies adopted international standards and safety guidelines, including the international basic safety standards for protection against ionized radiation and for the safety of radiation sources. And in the cooperation of International Atomic Energy Agency, and other international organizations, issues publications in 2002 on preparedness and response for nuclear and radiological emergency. And the ILO Radiation Protection Convention 1960 was already adopted long before Chernobyl. Furthermore, the ILO adopted Occupational Safety and Health Guidelines and OHS Management System in 2001. A significant number of countries adopted safety rules in relation to radiation and basic safety standards on voluntary basis. We have seen not only more regulations adopted at the national levels in 1986, but it also the enforcement of these rules has been strengthened, which means that the safety record has greatly improved. There are two key factors that contribute to the disaster, and these almost always contribute to injuries and disease at work. First, a poor and non-existing occupational safety and health management system, and second, an inadequate design and technical process which has inherently unsafe. As a result of Chernobyl accidents, the design process of nuclear plants and their operation have been controlled quite differently thereafter by law enforcement and inspection system in the market economies. Another major lessons learned refer to the need of involve worker in safety process in terms of training, education, information, and participation. It is necessary to emphasize the cooperation between employers and operators as in many cases the employers are not the operators. So we have to reinforce cooperation between the different stakeholders to make sure that everybody take responsibility. So that is the important lesson that we can learn from the Chernobyl event. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope all of you can benefit from that. And that's all for today. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.